How do you go from being just another accountant in the company to someone who's leading BI transformation on a global scale? Power BI is a big part of it, but as Pam shares with us today, there are a few other secret ingredients. Pam Baker is the manager for planning, forecasting, and analysis at Volvo Truck Operations, and this interview I know is going to be one of my favorites. Pam shared with such an open heart her journey with Power BI, the number one tip she has for others who are just starting out, and the biggest key to deploying Power BI in a large organization. That one might surprise you. We also talked about women in Power BI, why they are underrepresented but shouldn't be. It's stories like Pam that get me excited, stories from real people just like you and me using Power BI to make a real impact. These are the Power BI pioneers. If this video inspired you in any way, please leave a comment and let me and Pam know. And make sure to subscribe and click the bell so you're notified whenever I go live to help you in your Power BI journey. Now let's hear it from Pam. Hey Pam, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great today. Doing great.
Awesome. Well, so I'll dive right in. I know I've known you for a long time, but tell me how Power BI has impacted your life, your day-to-day, and maybe the bigger picture, career. Tell me about it.
Well, I got started back in early 2015. That was back with a Power Pivot. I was before the
Yes.
desktop rolled out back in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So in that time frame, it's just really blown up. I've blown up at my company. A lot of people are using it. So it's really starting to become popular. In my everyday work, I'm starting to
Mm-hmm.
use it much, much more, building a lot more complex data models and pulling in more information and working with it. So it's really been a great tool.
Yeah.
It's helped me a lot in my position, making my life easier for me. So it's really been great.
Wow. So I know you've been in finance and accounting for a long time. How did that change or transform the kind of impact you had around you in your team, in your company, uh, before kind of Power BI and after Power BI?
I think the best part about Power BI is that you can build things and make your work more efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So the time that we had spent working with Excel sheets and updating them every month and pulling information together,
Yeah.
we would spend maybe 80% of our time just pulling numbers together and then
Yeah.
20% of your time actually analyzing. So just from a time standpoint, it was a huge savings to be able to have that information, to have it there,
Wow.
have it built once, have your formulas written, refresh, and you're done. So that
Yeah.
was a huge impact. Um,
Yeah.
in accounting, a lot of times we look at information, we look at what happened for that month, and
Mm-hmm.
we're going to our management team and we're explaining this is what happened in the business operations. So we're really good at explaining the past, what happened.
Yeah.
But now we're moving more toward um, seeing things in real time and live and quickly, seeing things
Mm-hmm.
faster. So now we're better able at maybe predict saying this is what we're seeing today and this is what we think is going to happen. So more
Boy.
forward thinking. So
Boy.
that's huge in our area. That's a big impact. So that was really what changed. We're more on top of the day-to-day, what's going on.
That sounds incredible. I'm flashing back to my days. I was never a finance guy myself, but worked pretty closely with them, and I think there's a fundamental shift there you're talking about, and I want to talk about kind of two things here. One is clearly, as you talked about, you used us, you used we, so clearly is not just you. You've been able to kind of impact and influence and evangelize and bring other people onto the Power BI train, which is pretty exciting. I want to know more about that, but. The part where you said that we're not just looking at the past and it's more
Mhm.
current. So the part where you said that you can look at something. So at Microsoft, our data, believe it or not, was delayed by 2.5 months. So if you were looking at something in March, it happened in
Mhm.
January. It's crazy.
Yes,
And
exactly,
then,
exactly.
right? And yeah, we were not the only ones, right? So but
Yeah,
if you go from there to where you see daily, it just changes completely how you run your business because now
absolutely.
you feel the strength, you feel the courage to experiment stuff and say, "Hey, let's try this," and we'll know right
Exactly,
away if it worked or not.
exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
And time is money in any
Hmm.
business. You have to move quick. You got to
Yeah,
make decisions quickly and just
indeed.
the speed. I mean, that's just huge to be able to see things faster.
Yeah,
That's just has a huge impact.
that's
Yeah.
right. And I think nowhere is it a bigger travesty than in the finance group, because often you have a group of very highly qualified, highly
That's
skilled
exactly.
people. And if you have them in the mode that you described, where 80% of the time they're just
Exactly.
cranking out reports,
Exactly.
you're not
That's
really putting
exactly
them to the
right.
best use.
That's right. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. You're using your brain power on
Hmm.
these type of things instead of just the mundane tasks that you have to do
Yeah.
that you just have to roll it out.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
the vision now, I think, is it, and every finance team, finance professional has to step up to that, is that you can't be the number guy anymore. You have to be a true
That's exactly
partner to the
right.
business.
That's exactly right.
Hmm.
That's exactly right. And being in finance, I mean, we're kind of guilty of that because we
Hmm.
have to, we have to explain those results, those financial results, and
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Exactly what changed, why did it change, who changed, you
Hmm.
know, get back to that number, that variance number. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
historically, that's just what we've always done.
Yeah.
But now, like I said, to be able just to get to that variance or that change
Hmm.
fast, quickly, within an hour instead of a day, and
Yeah.
just see it and then drill down into it and
Absolutely.
start to, and ask questions. I mean, that's key. Being able to ask questions quickly and that short time frame that you have to explain your results,
Yeah.
is huge.
That's
And
right.
a lot of times you have information at your fingertips now. You're not having to go ask other people in other departments, hey,
Hmm.
why did this happen? Why did this happen? You can actually
Wow.
access the same information that they're accessing. So that's
Wow.
huge. You can
Everybody
ask
on the
better
same page.
questions.
Oh, that's incredible. So tell me a little bit more about that journey where you kind of discovered these tools, but as they spread out and you started interacting with other people, maybe showed them how it is, talked to them about it, evangelize it. Tell me about that journey. And specifically, I'm really
Yeah,
interested in if you met
yeah,
some resistance along the way and how did you deal with that?
yeah. Well, like I said, it started to get more popular. A lot of people started getting interested in it. So that was a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And where I work, we started doing more demos and we started showing people, and that really got people interested and
Mm-hmm.
engaged. Because once they saw it, they were interested and they
Yeah.
wanted to try it, and they thought, oh, the techniques you're using, maybe I can use it in my department. So that
Mm-hmm.
that was a great tool just to show them.
That's
So
great.
getting their attention was the big thing, and getting them engaged in it, and
Mm-hmm.
then helping them along. Like I
Yeah.
said, I do a lot of working with the other groups, other departments. I help them get started. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's the hardest part, is just figuring out, okay, what are my data sources? What am I trying to do? What's
Yeah.
my ultimate goal?
Yeah.
So that was just trying to help them get to the starting point.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the hard part. I think for most people, it's just getting started.
I couldn't agree more. But it's also amazing, and you talked about that too just now, where you said if you do help them, you kind of unlock
Yes.
it, right? Where their eyes go wide,
Yes.
and you're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I pulled your data and all this stuff, and they go, whoa, and often a great sign is when it opens a floodgate of questions. We'll say, oh, what about this?
Yeah.
What about that?
That's
Great,
exactly right.
great,
Yeah.
love it.
And helping other groups, I mean, is really awesome, because I really realized helping all these different groups within my
Mm-hmm.
company, I was learning the business,
Yeah.
things that I was never exposed to before, these different groups within my company. I
Yeah.
didn't have that one-on-one interaction and,
Uh huh.
talking to them, finding out, well, what are your KPIs? I mean, what do you look at? How do
Wow.
you want to see the information? What's important to you? I
Wow.
was learning the business.
Yeah, that's
And to
great.
me, that was great. I mean, because all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden it was all this new information that was so interesting, and not only that, I saw all their data sources and I thought, wow, I didn't know this was out here, this piece of data, I
Yeah.
could use this, or,
Oh,
I have something
amazing.
maybe you can use, and then you're
Yes.
starting to talk, and it really opens up all this insight or this opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
that you didn't even know was out there.
Yeah, I love that, and gosh, there's so much. Let me see if I can collect everything that's going on in my head, because there was so much goodness in there and what you just shared. So two things. One, I mean, data is power. I mean, obviously not raw data. You got to
Yes.
convert it to like go through that
Yeah.
information knowledge, but it's so powerful. So if you can tap into it and you can help others tap into it, it just makes your influence go
Yeah.
up 100x.
Absolutely.
And we talk about this dynamic in our student community in Learn Power BI, where we were maybe some of us were used to, I know I was, of being the data guy, kind of chained
Mhm.
to my desk and cranking out reports all day. And and what I'm talking to kind of my students, my community, is that you don't want to be just the data guy, but now using Power BI. And I think what you just described is a key factor in there, where you gotta open up a little bit and not
Yes,
just, kind of hunker down and work on your reports,
yeah,
but go
that's
reach
right.
out, go talk to other departments. And clearly now
Mhm.
it seems a lot more people know you. You've helped a lot more people,
Yeah,
and your footprint and impact inside the company is just astronomically higher, as
that's
opposed to
exactly.
if you just stayed kind of focused on perhaps just your own stuff.
And that's how you really learn. The more you do the more you work with other people or help build data models, that's how you really learn. Because
Yeah.
what might work for you in your area, it may
Uh-huh.
be a whole totally different concept, different
Yeah.
information,
Oh.
different ways of pulling it in, different ways of looking at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's twofold in the benefit that you
Yeah.
learn so much about your company, but you're getting better. You're getting
Wow.
better at it.
Love that. So there's that piece where you said that you experience new things, new challenges, which is true. But I think another learning comes in, and maybe you experience that this way, is that sure, it's all new and there are new challenges and so forth, but there comes a point where you start detecting patterns, where you
Yeah,
say, oh, I've seen this before. I mean, not exact same
exactly.
format, but I know how to solve
Mhm.
it. Right? Oh gosh,
Exactly.
yeah. If you've hit that, then that's awesome. Right?
Yes.
That's always a good sign.
That's very true. That's very true. That's
Great.
very true. If you can learn the patterns and the techniques, my
Hmm.
gosh, it can pretty
Yeah.
much apply across the board.
Yeah, and and again, I still agree that
Mhm.
the best way is to just apply it, and if you apply it enough, you will start becoming kind of very natural at it.
Yes.
So great. I mean, love the whole journey, but I know some of our followers who are probably just starting out in their journey. What
Yes.
advice would you have for them? I mean, sometimes they look up and say, "Oh man, this is a
Mhm.
tall mountain to climb." What would you say to
Yes.
them?
The advice I gave is just be patient. I mean, be
Mm-hmm.
patient with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to learn this overnight. You're not
Yeah.
going to learn this by taking one training class. It's just not going to happen. I think
Mm-hmm.
some people go into this and they see these demos or they see things on the web and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, well, I'll
It's
just do
also
it today.
easy.
I'll build a dashboard. I'll learn it. It's
Yeah.
easy. It's like Excel, I'll just dump it. But it doesn't
Yeah.
work like that. It's going to take time. There's a learning curve and you really need to get good training. I mean, that is the
Hmm.
key. Because with good training, you really learn how best practices to set up a data model, best
Yeah.
practices about writing formulas and DAX calculations. That's where you have to learn and you got to practice.
Mm-hmm.
I tell everyone you got to practice on your own data and you have to work with it. You
Got
just
it.
got to put the time in. So
Got
that's
it.
my best advice. And tell your company to be patient with you
Yeah.
too, because, it does take time and, you know, realize that it's going to take you a while to get up and running. It's going to take you a
Yes.
while to learn. And, you may hit a brick wall and realize, oh no, I'm really stuck. I can't move
Yeah.
any further and I'm
Yeah.
going to need some help from somebody to help me
Mm-hmm.
before I can move on. So
Yeah. So a lot of good points. Let me kind of recap. So when you said be patient with yourself, getting a good training is always a good
mhm.
idea.
Yes,
And gosh, that apply it, right? I mean, apply it,
yes,
use it.
apply
That's a
it.
good way to learn. But tell
Absolutely.
me, maybe talk about more about it, because I definitely see my followers, my students experience that when they hit the wall. And it feels
Yes.
so frustrating. And I see them posting comments like, I haven't made any
Yes.
progress. I couldn't figure it out. I had to go back to Excel and
Yeah.
solve it and all that stuff. And they're being so hard on themselves.
I think,
And any advice for that moment when you're just pulling your hair out? I don't
you
know
know,
how many moments you experienced like that.
that's true. And I have people at work will tell me the same thing, but
Hmm.
I tell them somebody has solved this same problem somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, this is,
Oh, love
someone
it.
has the answer to this. Don't get discouraged.
Yeah.
You know,
I
you may have
like
to
that.
reach out, to other people to
Hmm.
get the help and assistance that you need, but
Yeah.
it's very possible,
I
you know.
like that. And of course, yeah, I mean, Power BI, that's one thing that I've truly enjoyed.
amongst kind of, so when I meet with other Microsoft MVPs, they're so helpful, such an awesome community, and the
Yes,
general Power BI
that's
community is great.
exactly right.
And in a way, I've tried to kind of mirror that inside my class, just to have like a
Exactly,
small group of us, and that is an amazing group, and
exactly.
of course includes Bam Baker as
Yes,
well. That makes it
that's
cool.
right.
So
Yeah,
that's
very
great.
true.
So let me ask you, what are maybe some of the unexpected things you encountered on this Power BI journey, which
Yeah,
didn't quite see?
like I said, when I really learning it and being exposed to it and being on the top of new technology at my company, it
Mm-hmm.
really opened doors for me, because all of a sudden I was
Yeah.
working with new people, I was working in new departments, and being first, at this, you really get to, you get to, you get to
Yeah.
it opens up a lot of opportunity,
Wow.
and I work for a huge global company, and just to think that now I know people all over the globe, people call me, people know my name, here I
Yeah.
am,
That
the
does feel good.
accountant of the company, and I've got
Mm-hmm.
IT people that I talk to, business intelligence people.
Yeah.
So I know people from different areas, different groups within the company.
Wow.
I would have never had that opportunity. So it really just opened up all this opportunity. So that was that was tremendous that, you know, and,
Yeah.
it just happened along the way. So it's great. That's one thing that you wouldn't have expected, just learning something like this,
I
sharing that
know.
knowledge you really learn.
Oh boy, I love it. I love it. I think, and I think about that in kind of my own business, and I feel like I use this analogy where there is a bigger version of me, right? A bigger, better version of me, and I think it's already there. You just have to kind of, let it shine through, and I think somehow Power BI just allowed you to kind of grow into
Yeah.
that role and kind of
Yeah.
step up and step up in a big way. That's great. So,
Yeah.
so the last thing I want to ask you is that so we've in the recent discussion there's a lot of spotlight on kind of women in science and technology and so forth. What's your take on women in Power BI? I mean, I do see generally a healthy
Yeah.
ratio. It's almost fifty
Mhm.
fifty inside my class, but what's been your take on it?
I think it's great. It's a great opportunity for anyone, especially for women. Why not? There's no reason, we're all doing this type of work. So it's a great opportunity. It's like I tell anybody, it really opens doors.
Yeah.
That is just huge. Anytime that you could do something that no one else can do in your company, they're going to notice, that's the
Yes.
best.
Oh,
If you can show them something they've never done, or you show them insight, even better, that no one knew in the room.
yeah.
Sometimes, you think you know the answer, but the
Hmm.
facts are showing you something different.
Yeah.
That's a big deal, and it really opens up opportunities. So I encourage people, now's
Yeah.
the time, perfect time, since it is still new in a lot of companies,
That's true.
perfect time to jump in.
Oh gosh, I love that so much. So yeah, so if anybody, so I get some people. So you're right, you're absolutely right. A lot of companies are just stepping into this, so it's brand
Yes,
new, and it's
yes,
growing really really fast. Now's the time to do it. And
yes.
some I do come across some people that are like, oh gosh, and I should have jumped on it 2 years ago, whenever. And but my brother has the best code. He's like the time to plant a tree was 20 years ago,
Mhm.
and now,
That's
so
true.
just
That
do
is
it
very
now.
true. Yeah. And
All
it's
right.
the perfect time. Now is the time.
Great.
It's like,
Love it, Pam. Let's end things on that note. Thank you so much
okay,
for being
thank
with us
you.
today.
Thank you so much. Okay.
That was one of the most heartfelt interviews I've done. That's what makes Spam a pioneer. If you would like to start on your journey to become a Power BI pioneer, then join us in the Learn Power BI family. There's information in the details below. Until next time, power on, my friend.